And this week we're going to be talking about our adventures in Mexico. And so excited to dive into this insightful, beautiful, powerful experience. And let's get into it.
Let's get it. So fuck yeah. Let's talk about Mexico, man.
Yeah. So Mexico was, like we talked about before, it was this beautiful flowing experience that just went from moment to moment to moment, that just all seamlessly fit together with no expectations. But it just went from relaxation to powerful insight to release to vision to wow, what the heck was that? I mean, it was just just a beautiful unfoldment of a journey. And it was really awesome to be able just to do our own dance, but also come together and just dance with life, dance with nature, dance with the moment, and it was just a beautiful experience.
It was the best trip. I mean, like I had people actually saying multiple times, they're like, do you know that you keep calling this the perfect trip? And I'm like, yeah, I guess I do now. And it's it was really powerful. We stayed in Tulum, and where we stayed was a place that you picked out, man, and it was gorgeous. Nomade or Nomad, and it was powerful, man. Just even the set and setting of the actual hotel itself, and just being in this beautiful, because for people that have been to Tulum or maybe not have been to Tulum, it's this beautiful interplay between jungle and ocean. It's almost like the jungle's like kind of creeping into the ocean, and it's where Nomad is. It's right in between both, to where you have this immersive jungle experience and these beautiful like nature pathways, and then you have tree houses, which is where I stayed in a tree house, and you stayed in a tree house, and then our friend Steven stayed in more of like because he had a bigger group with him, so he stayed in more of like a traditional room. But it just walks right out from these pathways and these nature areas right into this like beach area, which was beautiful. And I think it was this really just being at the beach for me, man. Like when I first met you, when I came into Nomade from the airport, I walked up to you, hugged you, loved on you, and I was like, dude, let's go to the ocean. And like jumping right in the ocean, there was like seaweed everywhere. It was like the craziest time for seaweed, but man, it was a beautiful location.
Yeah, and it was a beautiful kind of way to be a part of nature seamlessly, allowing nature to be exactly what it is, but also adding the tree houses, adding the cafe thing, the restaurant, the pool. And it was just this beautiful mix harmoniously of just, the stuff that we like, the stuff that we enjoy of, the good stuff in life, but also respecting nature. So I really appreciated that aspect of Nomade. And yeah, it was just this really, to get into the experience. We were there in Mexico for about a week. And I would say that the first 5 days were just chillaxing for the most part at Nomade on the beach, just unwinding, recharging, just connected with nature and just going with the flow of everything. And it was a really beautiful opportunity to, really just do nothing and be, because it's not often, especially in the Western world and in our kind of taking massive action, making impact, helping people kind of lives, to go. And it's all aligned activity, helping people, elevating, having a good time, sharing laughter with friends and family, like it's all great stuff. But every once in a while, it's nice to just be, not have anything planned, not have anything, to do. We're just there on the beach and we're being. And so I think that was a really beautiful way to start this whole journey down in Mexico.
It was beautiful, man. And it was one of those journeys where coming into it, it was definitely top of mind to just settle into the flow of everything and just be a part of it, and don't worry about pushing or creating or appointments or phone calls or follow-ups. It was just completely immersive, man. And to the point where I didn't even take many pictures. We joked about it, how we saw some people, they needed to get the perfect selfie, and they were there for literally like an hour trying to get one
an
picture.
Hour.
Yeah. and we're like, that hour of your life you'll never get back. And I understand the idea of pictures and creating memories, but you took an hour to create a picture memory where you missed out on an hour of being present in this beautiful oasis. And it was just this beautiful illustration of like when you're fully present and you can enjoy the moments, and you don't need to be doing anything. And this was something that you really intensely magnified in your own life when you were in Peru and you extended your trip and you were hanging out with different people and doing different things. And you saw what people live like. And it's like, there's hours, there's days where people are just being, they're not even doing anything. They're not having to do anything. And I think that we got little slices of that while we were in Tulum specifically, man, but it was pretty unique. And I like those moments that we had where we were just chilling on the beach and we're eating healthy food and we're just hanging out and we're chewing the fat. And we're talking about, earthly things, cosmic things. We're talking about relationships and love and insights and the state of the world and all this different stuff. And it was just really great conversation with like soul family. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and I think we're talking about kind of integrating the masculine and the feminine. And for many people in the Western world, in the US and all this kind of stuff, we're used to action, this kind of masculine energy, which is do and create. And it's a great thing to have as part of ourselves. But what we were doing is we were kind of integrating the feminine of just being, just emanating, radiating exactly who we are.
Yep.
And it was a beautiful moment, a beautiful week to just let go of that masculine for a little while, to allow that feminine to really just become part of us again, to reintegrate within those two different energies within ourselves. So that way, as we move forward, we know exactly what the moment calls for, and we're not hindered by, we're not walking on a crutch with the feminine side of being. We're able to freely, ecstatically move with both legs free, both healthy, and both in unison of a movement forward. And so it's really, being able to integrate those two different types of energies of just being, radiating, and also doing and taking action, and knowing how to fully integrate it as we move forward into creating the perfect life that we desire, having the relationships that we want to bring in and attract and welcome more quality of life and the good times, so I thought it was a really beautiful way to, fully integrate both those kinds of energies.
It was also a great window into our future. And it was really beautiful to see like what we're creating and also when we're in alignment with our higher selves, like what is just attracted to us and what is just coming to us in the form of relationships or ideas or even like you said, being in complete harmony with both the masculine and the feminine that we all embody, hopefully that we embody. And seeing that play out, and just there were so many serendipitous moments that we'll kind of talk through, but I want to start getting into all the different ceremonies that we did, and we had this schedule, which was really, it wasn't like it was a backbone, or it was a thread through the week of everything we just talked about, from enjoying each other, enjoying the in nature with the beach and the jungle, enjoying the local community, and taking in all the different things from restaurants to people to conversations, and just really being present in each moment. But there were not necessarily that they're highlights, but there were things we looked forward to each day. There was a different event essentially. And so we can go linear, we could talk about wherever, but I want to talk about those because the subtleties and the beauties and some of those experiences are still, they're obviously still playing out right now, but they were just so powerful. And some of them were so erring on the feminine side for sure. Some were so subtle and so beautiful, but they were so impactful. And we did have bigger journeys and different things like that, but just want to dive in there with like maybe the cacao ceremony and what, was that your first experience? Cause I know it was for me. And what was it like for you? What did you kind of feel and, all that?
Yeah. So to intro to the cacao, it's a feminine, beautiful ceremony. And it was the first time I did it. And it was the first time for you, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it was to kind of set the stage. We have this beautiful setting inside the jungle, this yoga kind of wooden structure thing with a nice, beautiful platform. And there's water like underneath the whole entire thing. And so we have this kind of beautiful like waterfall sound, or I don't know exactly how they structured it, but there's just like this beautiful waterfall going on in the background. We're in this beautiful setting. We get in the circle, and the cacao bean has been a critical part of the Central and South American culture for hundreds of years. And we found that this was just a really beautiful way to tap into this beautiful space of sacredness, the feminine, and to offer up, what our intentions are for that ceremony. So every kind of ceremony, we have the opportunity to basically say a prayer to the universe, to set intentions for ourselves and for those that we love. And the different types of ceremonies offer us kind of different focuses or different kind of containers. And the cacao ceremony was just this really beautiful container. And I think that for me, the biggest takeaway was continuing that feminine openness and receiving. Because I'm a masculine dude, military, special forces, all this kind of stuff. It's most of my life has been like, let's go after it. Let's
our
get
charger.
it.
Yeah.
And my journey of integrating the feminine has been just this beautiful, unfolding. And the more that I embrace that, the more it seems to come in a more flowing way. So it's definitely, a mental perspective shift. That's definitely taken some willpower and some sometimes frustration. Yeah. And so, that was a beautiful ceremony for me. And I'd be interested in what your perspective was.
Yeah, brother. I mean, you're a wizard with words, man. That's why I love the chewing the fat with you, man, because it's always great conversation and hearing your perspective and how you articulate and paint the tapestry of conversation, dude. It's fucking beautiful, man. But just thinking about it, man, it's like it was I look back on it now and like we talk about the structure and that's very intentional, the water that's underneath. And as we know and we've learned through different things, like water is so powerful and being able to hold frequencies and create healing. And we're made of mostly water. And so like, I'm really starting to kind of tap into this myself in terms of like sound healing. And like, if you've seen videos of different frequencies and different sound healing methods, like someone has a bowl and they're doing the circular motion with some water in it, and you could see what's happening to the water. There's actually physically something changing with the water. It's like bubbling or shooting around. So I'm getting more intrigued with this. And I'm noticing, and we learned about this in Chichen Itza, which we'll talk about. A lot of the pyramids have it like a cenote or like a pool of water at the bottom, and it creates so much more power and frequency for whatever it is you're trying to manifest. And so I feel like that was intentional. I feel like there was water underneath that structure. And brother, that being said, it was powerful as shit. So we didn't work with any mind-altering substances. We didn't imbibe anything. We worked with raw chocolate, cacao, essentially. And it's a little seed. I didn't know it was in a seed. That was pretty cool to learn. And so it's in this little seed. And the lady taught us so much about it, the woman that was facilitating. And there was also, so it was divine feminine led, but there was also a masculine presence. And he was playing all these beautiful instruments native to Mayan culture and to Mexico, and sounds of the forest, sounds of nature, sounds of frogs. And he was playing the didgeridoo and all this different stuff. It was insane. He was a wizard with music. And his whole thing at the end of it, jumping towards the end of this, I'll kind of go back through the meat of it. He was talking about how that's his healing modality. Like that's how he creates containers of healing for other people. And sound is, again, something that I'm kind of getting attracted to more and more as a really powerful way to facilitate healing and change and all these different shared experiences. And so we're in there and there's a group of maybe 14 of us, give or take a couple people, plus the facilitators. And I just was really interested to see what this was going to be about. And so just kind of going through the ceremony and setting intentions and working with the cacao itself and learning about cacao being sent to us from Venus, which is, the major feminine planet, and like all these different things about history about it. And we were just 14 to 16 people in a room in a very powerful set and setting with intention really creates this different dynamic. It's almost like the air in the room changes in a sense. Like if you could think about temperature, like cold or hot, it makes it much more powerful. And we've seen this before too at Steve Ricks's birthday when we were working with some modalities there, and like just the power of intention and how that amplified everything and just community. And so the feeling I got from this ceremony, the first time I worked with cacao, was just of immense heart opening and love and surrendering to emotions. And I was teary eyed. I was feeling the feels. I could feel the universe kind of doing its thing. And it was just this beautiful, very subtle, but as subtle as it was extremely powerful. It didn't need to be a blunt sword. It was like just like this little whisper, like an intuition, like when you sit and meditate and you hear the voice of God. It's very subtle, but it's the most powerful thing. That's kind of how I felt throughout the whole ceremony.
Yeah, and I think it was beautiful that when you're open and receptive to that, it can come in waves and almost overtake that that yourself in this kind of beautiful emotional state of release, of love, of these kind of softer emotions that are part of us, all of us, and that sometimes we're not able to express it wholly and fully because of some kind of mentality that we have or some kind of limitation that we have on ourselves. And it's beautiful to be able to get into these containers, which I'll talk about probably most in the Temescal thing.
Oh yeah.
But it's beautiful to have these different containers to be able to express parts of ourselves that are often not expressed wholly and fully. So I thought that was really beautiful. And then we ended it with some ecstatic dance, which was really, really cool and beautiful. And I know that that's one of your, top things to do. And yeah, it's a jam. So yeah, man, the cacao thing was beautiful. I highly recommend anybody to try it if they have the opportunity, for sure.
Oh yeah, brother. I would do it again in a heartbeat. And it was so, everything that we're about to talk about and have been talking about was just so perfect, man. And I think that's just a state of being and just a state of kind of like wonder, like childlike wonder, and being able to receive new things and not necessarily have to know how it's going to play out. And this was something I did yesterday, talking about ecstatic dance, and we'll talk about this more in detail. But after the ecstatic dance, I was hanging out with a friend, and we just flowed to like dinner and flowed from there, and ended up getting like a popsicle that was really cool after it. Like nothing was intended. Like it was just, the moment was what needed to happen. It was just so beautiful. And so I think that there was a lot of that for me, where I didn't care what it was going to be like. I didn't care. There was no like, well, what's going to happen, or what am I going to receive, or what's the download or integration? Like there was no searching. It was just being. And it was so powerful, because I think that embodiment of being for the whole trip really played out heavily as all of these events, they kind of started to escalate in the sense of, I don't want to say intensity, that might be the wrong word, but like they were stronger, more powerful experiences as we went along. Like it went from subtle to really intense. And so the next thing we did was the sound healing, which was the first time I ever had a sound healing that wasn't like a gong or wasn't a like a sound bowl. It was like you said, you illustrated this perfectly. Like it was like he sang us the most beautiful love song to all of us.
Yeah,
and that was so powerful. And there was a gentleman who again was a maestro with his instruments, singing, playing again in the same place in the yoga teepee. I guess it's this A-frame, like you said, and got the water underneath this, and it's just this beautiful evening setting with like light candles, and it's just beautiful. We're out in nature, and you can hear sounds and feel the breeze. And he had two women that were working with him, and they were doing some Reiki, and they were doing some energy work when we were laying down. But again, it was another heart opening experience. So heart opening with cacao, energetic release and emotional release. And then the same thing with the, and I was again brought to a place of teary eyed, great gratitude, thankfulness, happiness, playfulness. And it really just expanded my heart and my mind in a very beautiful way.
Yeah. And if you think about it, that we have 5 different senses, and some of us maybe have more or whatever. But these different experiences offer the entry point of healing from different sensory modalities. So the cacao is very emotional, very feeling. And of course, there's a lot of overlap in a lot of these different ceremonies. But the sound healing, it's very auditory. And being able to hear these different types of frequencies that trigger something beautiful within ourselves. And it's all these different ceremonies are a reflection of who we are.
Yeah.
So it's like, when you identify like, man, this guy he's just singing a love song to all of us in the most heartfelt,
yes,
beautiful, like sincere, authentic way to strangers. And it's like, that's just such a beautiful way to live life, that like just singing, because he had several different instruments, but he was playing the guitar several times. And that was one of the moments where he was just singing this love song.
yes.
And it was just like, man, like how beautiful is that? And, to be able to have the entry point in our, listening sense is a beautiful way to allow for like a full spectrum of healing, and allow our different aspects of ourselves to be fully integrated.
Yep.
And so as a kind of an example, it's like when you watch a movie and you have like a quarter second audio delay, to where like you say hi and it's like hi,
Yeah.
like it's like it's not in sync, it's not integrated. And a lot of times we live life like that, with different aspects of ourselves kind of like overlapping, but it's not quite integrated. And these experiences offer this like full integration, full synchronicity of who we are and what we're up to and what we're doing. And so again, these different types of ceremonies, I highly recommend a full spectrum of them. Yes. Because being able to do the sound healing, do the cacao, and do these other things, that your entry point or my entry point or other people's entry point will absolutely be different. And only by experience will somebody know, like, man, that something about that sound healing just like really, or it could be something else for other people, so my advice for anybody listening is that go out and experience these kinds of beautiful ceremonies. Yes. With an open heart and no judgment, no expectations, and just see what happens. And as you move forward on this journey, you'll find that, man, I'm learning so much about myself, so much about the world, and how I can move forward in just a beautiful, powerful way.
There's a reason why music and sound and instruments have been a backbone of the human experience since the dawn of time. And our brother Steven talks about, because he's very business minded, but he operates in this world with us, and so he needs to a lot of times bring our experiences to a business or more practical verbalizing, so people like because we might be able to, people might look at us and like say we operate in the woo woo or the cosmic or whatever, but like to be able to bring it into reality, with sound and the healing and the effect that sound can have on you. You have two beautiful plants over each one of your shoulders behind you here on this video, and they have done studies before with plants and water and other things. We'll stick with plants, where they'll play death metal, horrible sound, like really like negative, saying bad things, and you'll see a plant like wither and die. And then they play, beautiful, wonderful sounds and music to this other plant, and it like flourishes. And so even just from the actual intention, never mind the actual like getting into the science like megahertz and frequencies and all these different things, which really go deeper into this, you can see a physical manifestation of sound. And think about it. A lot of times when you put on joyful, happy music, it makes you joyful and happy, puts you in a happy state. And when you put on like hard charging metal or like crazy like gangster rap or something, it puts you in a different mind frame where like you might be going for a run or you're going through a hard workout. Like it actually intensifies in a very like masculine way to get the job done, so to speak, be like creator or doer. And so sound is completely, and again, I know this is something we're both called to with things that we like to do on the side, from singing or music and, enjoying experiences like from dancing and all the things that are entailed, where we're just kind of scratching the surface. But I know that between both of us and our conversations, like sound is going to be a big narrative into our journey, into our story. So I think for people listening, definitely check out sound, definitely get out to some sort of something that's calling you and just go enjoy the experience. But, was the next event from there the next evening? Because we were doing, just for people listening, we were doing one of these a day. So one of these events a day. We weren't trying to do them all in one. We were really trying to enjoy them and try to, or just be in the moment. The next one was the Temescal.
Well, actually, that was during the evening, and then the three of us, we had the toad ceremony in the morning. That was my birthday.
That's right.
Yeah. So we want to save that one for towards the end.
Yeah, we'll do it before like despacho, like before leaving Tulum, I guess. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And then because like we all kind of went up to Chichen Itza similar time, so I think that would be like kind of, we can put that together.
Yeah, so let's hit up the Temescal, I think.
Yeah, man. So I had done a Temescal, which for people listening is a traditional sweat lodge, and it's used all over the world, different places. Different tribes and American Indians have used this for many years as rites of passage. People in different, Mayan culture, Peruvian culture, it's all over the world. And what happens essentially, you have a ceremony that's built around this idea of really connecting through the physical to get to a spiritual or emotional place. And for me, my first experience was back in December when I was in Tulum, and it was incredibly powerful, incredibly difficult, but it was perfect. And so what happens is they curate this experience. They'll set some intentions. They will call in some protection from different areas. They'll go ahead and give gratitude to different parts of the universe and different sun, moon, earth, everything. And then also what they're doing at the same time is they have these lava rocks that are being heated up by fire. And the reason why they use lava rocks is because when you pour water on the lava rock, it won't explode, and you don't want an exploding rock in a very confined space.
Yeah.
So what happens is, there's this like small circular, shelter that's maybe 5 feet, 6 feet tall, and it's probably, I don't know, 12 feet wide in each direction. It's just enough to fit 8 to 10 people in a very tight and purposefully tight, because it's a shared experience. In a nice like lotus pose position, like so everybody's pretty much shoulder to shoulder, knee to knee, and they're bringing in these lava rocks into the center of this structure that eventually they'll shut put blankets or a leather piece of material over the door, and it becomes pitch black. And so now you have someone who's leading the ceremony, whether it's a shaman or not. You may have an assistant to the shaman, and then you have every one of the participants, and they're participants too, but they're leading this journey. And it gets warm pretty quick. And what happens is these lava rocks emit vapor, and the vapor gets trapped at the top of this dome circular structure. And you're breathing in really warm air. So it's not just the temperature, but you're breathing in like if you could think of sweat, like almost like minuscule sweat, you're breathing in hot water. And it gets uncomfortable pretty quick. And if you're not surrendered, this whole thing about these journeys that we do, it really incorporates surrender so much. And if you fight it, you will get your ass kicked on it, like plant medicine journeys or these sweat lodges. And so you really have to be mindful of just letting the moment be and tapping back into your strength and your breathing and your mindset and being present. Because if your mind starts wandering and you start getting nervous, you really freak yourself out. And I'll just tell you, kind of overarching for me, man, I love sweat lodges. Sweat lodges are one of my favorite things to do. Like I love anything that like incorporates hot, cold, movement and puts that into like a spiritual setting. And man, for me, I got some really beautiful downloads, like some insights spiritually and emotionally that really just kind of cracked me open in a sense of treating my body better, and really paying attention to the beauty that the body can create in this world. And so I don't know, what was it like for you?
Yeah, so it was a beautiful ceremony for sure, and my wife was part of it. So she was an inspiration to, I think, everybody inside there. And, so we all have different things that we harbor within ourselves that are, ready to be expressed and sometimes ready to be released, depending on what they are. And so for her, this was a big thing for her to address several different fears that she has. And so it came a pretty quick moment for her to be like, oh, wow, this is intense. This is an intense ceremony. And so a lot of my time was focused on how do I, create a little environment between her and I to help her get through these different things. And it was this energy of empowerment. It's like empowered help. Because it's like if you go too far and try to help someone too much, you're robbing them of their own experience of overcoming challenge and releasing wholly and fully. And I definitely didn't want to do that, but it was, I was finding my own kind of balance of empowerment to bring out her own strength, remind her of the strength that she already has and that she's just expressing, and she's getting out the fear. And being able to use this very physical experience to let go of something very emotional. So it was a really beautiful experience for me to be in this, state of hotness and sweat, and also being in a certain sense an empowered caregiver or helper or something like that.
Yes.
And so for me, that was mostly my experience. But it really reminded me of, we've talked about this before, but it's about, for those who've ever heard of Joseph Campbell, he has a book called The Hero with a Thousand Faces, and he talks about the monomyth, the heroics, the hero's journey.
Yes.
And he also talks about rites of passage. And in many of the tribal times and, days of old, they had initiations or rites of passage to go, as an example, from boyhood to manhood. And basically it is this thing where, a boy's 12 years old, 13 years old, and he's got to go out. This is more of a native kind of thing, but he would go out and he would have to stay out for 2 or 3 days, and he'd have to return back with the animal that he killed with his hands or the tools that he made. And it's not the physical act of doing that, but it's the mental shift in who you think you are inside is what changes. Because it's like, okay, this boy, he calls himself a boy, and then he does this thing out in the world. He has an experience. He has this container. And then he comes back and he's a man now. It's not that he not only thinks that he's a man now, but everyone else also knows that. So he is forever changed from boy to man. And a lot of times in our societies now, we don't really have these initiations. We don't have these rites of passage that are definitive. We have these kind of milestones of 16 years old, I can drive, 21-year old, I can, buy some alcohol. And, we have these other milestones in life, but being able to have a very firm and definitive shift in perspective of who you are, that's what these different types of ceremonies can offer if you are aware of it and if you set that intention. So, by us sharing, this truth on the podcast, it allows, I think, for people to be like, hey, that's actually a pretty interesting perspective, pretty interesting concept. Maybe I can do something next week that I will do, but it shifts my perspective on who I am. A month or two ago, I participated in a Spartan race, and it was with this nonprofit called Project Refit. And basically what they were doing is that there's this guy, he was like 450 pounds, and he had lost over 100 pounds, a little bit more, over the course of a year. And as his celebration, and he was like, hey, I want to do a Spartan race. I want to prove to myself that I can do this.
Nice.
And so we all did it as a team, and we all made it. We all crossed the finish line pretty much at the same time. And that shift within himself, because he did some kind of external experience, this kind of physical feat, and he crushed it, by the way. For those who don't know, Spartan race is, not the easiest thing in the world, because we did the 10K one. So it's 25 different obstacles or, events within the race.
Yep.
But that shift within himself offered him to change who he thought who he was, and changed it from a very knowing standpoint. So it doesn't have to be a cacao ceremony. It doesn't have to be a sound healing. It doesn't have to be a sweat lodge that takes you to the edge of all your fears. It could be something that's pretty challenging, Spartan race. It could be some other type of event that that if you're conscious of creating this container within yourself that, yes, I'm going to do this external thing and I'm going to have this experience, but I'm going to overcome it and I'm going to change who I think I am afterwards. And I'm forever altered in the most positive way.
Yep. Yep. It's beautiful, man. And there's so many things that you touched on there that are so important. I think the first thing, kind of segueing from that, is if you feel called or pulled, if you have something inside of you saying, I'm interested by this, I'd like to check out a Spartan race, an ecstatic dance, a sweat lodge, whatever it is, follow that. That's your soul's tugging. That's your soul has innate eternal intelligence, and it's telling you that you need this experience for one reason or another. It could be heal some trauma. It could be, step into this initiation of this next iteration of who you're becoming and your full embodiment. Listen, tap into that sound of there's like this drum that gets louder and louder once you keep doing this more and more. And then eventually it's like, you just know when you hear something, you're like, yep, that's it. Like when I walked into Peru, and with you and Steven and some other people, and like the first second I walk in there, I just realized that every time that I walk into a situation with you, we're off to the races. So like immediately you look at me, unscheduled, unannounced from me, you're like, hey, we're going to go do combo. You want to join? I'm like, I'm in. And I just got off like a 20-hour journey coming to see you. And like, so like, I knew, and this is because I've started tapping into my intuition and my knowing. And I'm like, when I know I want to do something, there's no second guessing it anymore. It's almost like a foregone conclusion, and it's almost already happened in my mind. Now it's just going to happen in time, if that makes sense. But for people that are listening to this, I think they need to really just honor themselves. And some of this takes a little bit of confidence. Some of this takes a little bit of surrender. Some of it takes a little bit of who gives a fuck how I look out there, out ecstatic dancing. I'm just going to go get mine. And then once you do it once, the next time becomes easier. And then again, and again, and then eventually you become really good at it. And like you learn so much about yourself and you start teaching other people. And so I think that's the first thing. The second thing I got from that was initiation into being an elder. So like to be initiated, we need more initiations. We need initiations of the physical, the spiritual, the emotional, the psychological. We need initiations into all those different playing fields. But we also, the importance of elders, people that have been there and been through it and really embody this gratitude and this humbleness, but this power. They're, some of the most powerful people, you'll never know how powerful they are because they don't need to brag about it. They don't need to talk about it. They just are, right? It's like that cliche, the toughest guy in the room usually don't know, it's the ideal thing is if you're top 1% badass motherfucker, no one will ever know about it. And you can speak to this as a special operations guy because you were a top like 0.001% in terms of operations in the military community. And so there are people that take it to one degree and they're very braggadocious, but like the most powerful people tend to be the ones that you never even knew that it's what they did. You know what I mean? And I think that's kind of the full embodiment of becoming an elder. And then the last piece I want to bring up, because I want to give your wife a ton of credit because you just did, and just from my experience, because she obviously inspired everyone in that circle. We walk out of there and I look at her like, Allie, you did a great job. Like, this was huge for you. And she's like, yeah, you're just saying that because obviously like I'm a friend and she thinks I'm just trying to like build her up or whatever. And then like 10 minutes later, strangers we never met, people from different parts of the world, they had accents, came up to her and said, hey, if by you staying, it gave me the power to stay too. And yeah. I was like, fuck yeah. And then someone else said the same thing to her. So then like a percentage, a good chunk of people, 15-20% of the people came up to her and said, you are my inspiration. So she went from having a super hard time going through her own process to being the beacon of light for other people without even knowing it.
As a simple byproduct.
Yeah.
And that's how we can operate moving forward, is that we are just doing and being exactly who we are. And that in and of itself, as a byproduct, inspires other people to step into their greatness or to overcome or to move forward with their life in a powerful way. So it's a beautiful thing that these things can just, and I wanted to hit that on the first thing that you said, is it's like listening to that inner voice. You're just becoming who you truly already are. Yep. That you've been holding yourself back, like dancing like a silly little boy, like, hey, that's fun stuff. And there's a part of you, the inner child in you, wants to do that. But, us grown men, we think we're tough or whatever, and we let go of that stuff. And I know I'm still moving through that part of my journey too, but I've taken a lot of significant progress. Okay. But it's every step that you take, listening to that inner voice, yes, you are becoming exactly who you always were, but unfiltered. Now it's like, now I can just go out into the world and be exactly who I am and not have to filter myself or hold myself back, speak my own truth, and have the most fun, most beautiful experience of life that you possibly can. And you will, if you follow that inner voice, if you experience these things that your inner soul is trying so desperately to communicate to you, but you're like, no, that's some dumb stuff. Or like, hey, no, I don't want to do that. Like I look dumb, like, you just, you have to decide when enough is enough of like, man, I'm tired of holding myself back, or I'm tired of, not doing the things I want to do, and just boom, Yoda said it, like, there is no try, just do. And
yeah,
and so many people, fall under trying, and trying is one of the most, one of the biggest illusions of progress, because we think we're doing something.
Yes.
Yeah. We're thinking that we're doing something, but by firmly deciding we're doing it with the heart, we're allowing our actions to be aligned with what's in our soul, what's in our heart. Yeah. And when we follow that inner compass, we become exactly who we were meant to be, that we've always felt. And as we move forward, we get more and more messages like, man, that's why I did that. Like, man, that's why that part of my life turned out that way. Man, that's why I met that person. Man, that's why I really enjoy that, and you just start to realize that, man, life has just been giving you everything that you wanted, but you just hadn't had the right perspective, or you needed to shift something within yourself. So it's a really beautiful thing to listen to that inner compass.
It'll never steer you wrong either, especially if you're really attuned to it and you give it some time to really kind of get louder over the course of working with it. But let's jump to the next class before kind of the big journey. They're all big journeys, but there was a sledgehammer of a journey. So we did it was initially called energetic lovemaking, but by the time we got to the class, it was called Orgasmic Bliss, and it was this beautiful class about sex and about loving yourself in that avenue of life, which is so profound. It can be so beautiful, and just the mindset behind how we as Westerners in the United States versus like pretty much the rest of the world looks at sex, where a lot of times, because we're in that go, do, perform, we're like, let's hurry up and get done. And I didn't personally like, because over my own personal journey, I've learned to really kind of like enjoy it. But like I had been there before, where it was like, let's get in, let's penetrate, let's finish, let's be done. But like, but now it's, when she said most people are doing it for X amount of time, in my mind, I'm like, I'm like stretching to like the 60, 90 minute zone. Like we're starting to get into a beautiful place. But she really even took it further. She's like, you can have sex for hours. And again, people are going to be like, well, I work, I have a job, I have kids. You have to be intentional about this like anything else. And you have to be in alignment with this, with yourself, and then you could be in alignment with your partner. But she had from Venezuela, so she spoke, just obviously had an accent a little bit different. She's like, yeah, stop for a break, go take a cookie, like go have a cookie, like whatever it is, have a piece of cake, whatever floats your boat, come back, really explore. But really it started off with just self-awareness and looking at our bodies differently and the mindset of sex. And it was interesting because everybody in there had a partner, was with their significant other. And I had come to this event single. So I got to partner up with Mary, who was the facilitator, and she's powerful beyond measure when it comes to this. So I really got to learn from like the wizard. It was awesome. And we had this beautiful conversation. She was teaching me all these different things, but I'll tell you, for me, it was, again, super powerful experience. It was just education. It was the intention. It was the container. And then what really landed for me, the whole thing was powerful, but what really landed for me was when she started playing that song, and it says, I love you, forgive me, or I love you, thank you, forgive me. I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you.
Thank you. I love you. Yeah. And the reason why that it was beautiful and powerful was because she was having us say that to ourselves, like one hand over our hearts, one hand over our genitals, and like really tapping into loving ourselves. And when's the last time people talked? And it was for me, it was really powerful because I learned that mantra about a year ago when saying sorry to somebody. So instead of just giving like a half-assed, hey, I'm sorry, or whatever, like really curating a heartfelt, loving apology that had that framework around it. So I'm sorry, forgive me, I love you, thank you. But like putting a paragraph or two into that when saying sorry is so much more powerful and so much more heartfelt than just saying, hey, I'm sorry, won't do it again. Because like that's how I used to operate. Or if I even did say sorry, I might just brush it off and like whatever, try to make light of it or make a joke of it. But when I heard those words, I just immediately tapped into that moment. And I was like, fuck, and again, started crying. It's like really emotional for me.
Very.
I went deep. I went super deep into, because she was talking about not giving your body away just to give it away, not fucking around just to fuck around, and like not having sex with people that aren't energetically aligned with you. Because what we're starting to find out is a lot of times the people that have sex, you're operating in someone else's energy. And if someone has a lot of trauma, if they have a lot of negativity, if they have a lot of like bad juju, we'll call it, like that can kind of imprint on you for a short time being. And so you really want to be intentional, and you really want to be specific with who you're sharing that with, because it is sacred, but it's also pleasurable. So it doesn't have to just be like super sacred, and like it's exciting. And she was teaching us all these things at once. And by the end of it, I was like, you got to come on the podcast. Like I want to do life with you. So she's part of our little collective of wizards. But how was it for you, man?
Yeah. Like you said, there were so many different perspectives and like different things that were brought to the table during that hour and a half or whatever it was. And a lot of it was, again, balancing the masculine and the feminine, and just having a different perspective of what sex is and how it's a energy of creation. And that, by embedding the playful kind of feminine, flowy, like not trying to get anywhere, but just enjoying the moment, you know, kind of like let's do foreplay with life, you know, like bringing that kind of, and it's not about bringing like sex into every conversation, but I think bringing in this playful kind of foreplay to life is a really beautiful thing to organically allow your life to unfold in just a really beautiful way. And so mixing those two energies or balancing those two energies, I think was one of the first things. And again, that exercise you were talking about was really beautiful and emotional, because it's like, it's just a different level of treating your body with respect and loving your body with this beautiful sacredness, that it is our temple for us to have a beautiful existence right here on earth, and being able to really see it from a different perspective. Yep. Because a lot of times, you know, especially in the Western, you know, it's like this sexual is this taboo. You know, we could talk about, you know, other wisdom, love, light, and healing, and love, truth, and all this kind of stuff. But then it's like, oh, sex is like, oh, wait, but it's such a beautiful part of, you know, this experience here, that if we cut it off, or if we look at it differently, or if we don't fully integrate it, it leaves us with a less whole being. And so by bringing back that aspect of like, oh man, that's, you know, I've done that before, but maybe I didn't do it quite as often, or, you know, just that full spectrum perspective again, and knowing what the moment calls for in this kind of, you know, topic, you know, is a beautiful, it's also a beautiful dance, because it's not just about, you know, super flow. Sometimes it's, you know, it's the other side, you know, it's, you know, massive action, if you know what I'm saying.
Let's
you
just
know,
say
like,
we're fucking,
yeah. So like that's part of the dance too.
Right.
So, you know, being able to have that full spectrumness and respect to the body. And yeah, it was a really beautiful experience that opened my eyes. And it's like, oh, this is a great way forward to create, to live, to thrive. And, you know, and I think probably the biggest thing for me was that, you know, sexual healing is actually a thing.
It is not just a song.
Huge. Yeah. It's a huge thing, you know, and enjoyable way to heal, you know, not only yourself, but your partner. And so having that perspective, I think that, you know, it's like, oh, wow, this is a really beautiful way to live life.
I would definitely say for those listening, get after some foreplay, like really, really take your time with it. I think a lot of people rush through that. A lot of people just go right to it. And like, if you really want to have a pleasurable experience, foreplay will get you tens, thousands more results if you're looking at it that way versus just rushing into it. And it's another way into direct contact with the soul, between two souls, is this physical connection and sex, right? And I think it's important for people to understand that if you give it intention, and again, you could be fucking or you could be making love or anywhere in between. If you give it the right intention, and if you give it the right space, and you look at it in a sacred way, like, hey, this is two souls like choosing to be together and explore this together, even just the mindset of it going into it is going to be much different versus just like, I'm horny, I want to fuck. Like, and I think that the evolution of a relationship, you'll see so much more growth in between yourself and your partner if you do treat it that way, versus it's just a means to an end. And I read something the other day that was really interesting. It said, you know, there's this theory, these books about it saying that everything's predicated on sex. Like everything we do is the end result of sex. And I don't believe that personally, but I see like kind of where their point is, but I don't agree with it. But one thing that came from it that made sense, because I used to be guilty of this before, you know, the last couple of years in terms of sex, especially like with my my wife. I would do things out of, I wouldn't say ulterior motives, but like I would do things to try to get sex. So like, instead of just doing something just to do it to be nice, like it would also be like, it's nice, but like I'd like to get
strings attached.
Yeah. And
like
there was this beautiful illustration of a guy saying like, and I'll send it to you when I can find it, but it was basically saying like, you do this out of love because you do this out of love, and that's what you did it for. But if you do it because you did it, but you also want to get sex, well, that's a little bit like less genuine, and it's not as pure. So like, I thought about that, and I called myself out. I was like, holy shit, you used to be that guy. Like you used to do that. And I'm thankful that I've been able to grow from that and learn from that. But even just everybody day to day, whether you're in a committed relationship, whether you're dating, whether you're in some other form of relationship, don't use sex as a weapon. Don't use sex as a tool, like in a negative way. Use it as like the way that I talk about sex now. I say sex is soul bending. It's healing. It's gorgeous. It's playful. It's fun. It's exciting. And whatever you're into, like, leave the judgment behind. As long as you and your partner are in agreement, explore, have fun, play. There's nothing that's taboo. And if unless someone's getting hurt and they don't like it, like, there has to be safe words. Like, if you're into that sort of thing. But all I'm trying to say is just do the exploration, do it from a place of love, and do it from a place of open communication, and your life will fucking change dramatically just through that one act of being physical with somebody.
Love expressed.
That's it.
And we talk about this all the time, is that once you fully embrace and love yourself, everything that you do is coming from that beingness of love and loving myself. And so it just then becomes an expression of love, love expressed. And sometimes that's like giving your grandma a hug. Doesn't have to be sexual, but like, and sometimes it's like making love to your wife or your significant other or your partner or whatever it is. Like, it's just love expressed. And if you have that powerful thread of love underneath it all, then I don't want to say you can do anything you want, but of course it's like, if both are down to do whatever the thing is,
more doors will open for sure.
Yeah. But it's love expressed. Yes. And so I think that, it's a beautiful way to think about that topic. But then it's like, it also kind of gave me this like beautiful way to, we can talk about integration here a little. I'm sure we talked about it before.
Yeah.
But integration can become a form of foreplay, to where, a lot of people look at integration and says, oh man, I had this really powerful peak experience. I learned this about myself. I saw this vision for myself. I literally let this go. And then the integration and the embodiment piece is after the ceremony, after the experience. And a lot of people look at the work, the integration is the work. And we can look at it like that, but then we'll definitely have some friction. We'll definitely have some frustration. We'll definitely have some growing pains in this transformation, this metamorphosis of the old me before and what I'm becoming and transforming into. And adding this kind of playful foreplay energy allows you for, again, just like in sex, where I'm enjoying this tiny little moment of this very sensual act, not because it's going to lead to a cosmic climax or anything, but because it's a beautiful tiny moment to enjoy. And so if we look at integration and embodiment after these powerful experiences, foreplay, playful foreplay is a beautiful way to allow the unfoldment of the lessons, of the letting go, of the stepping into, and all this beautiful stuff when we're talking about integration. So it's sex is applicable to a lot of different areas in life, not just the good pleasurable stuff.
More conscious, playful sex, kids. Listen to the master Lane Belone.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So this whole journey that we went on was there was a really a pilgrimage in a sense. It was and I don't know what if that word pisses people off. It was this journey from Tulum to, we were going to make our way up to Chichen Itza, which we're about to, but before we got to Chichen Itza, we had a really powerful experience. And you and two other gentlemen that we were with, we were all going to go together, but the day that y'all went, I didn't feel right for me, because I wanted to kind of have my own hero's journey in a sense. I wanted to kind of have this shared experience that we had, but I wanted to go into the cave by myself with this journey and come out of the cave, because every time I do a plant medicine journey, a lot of times it's in a group setting or there's someone else there. It's been a couple of times where I've done it by myself, which has been beautiful, but for the most part, the 90% of times it's been with other people. And I just felt really called to do this solo. And so you went with the two other guys, and you went on, was it Tuesday or Wednesday?
Monday.
Oh, you went on Monday. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you went like a day before I did, or whatever it was, 2 days before I did. And we were working with DMT. A lot of people talk about DMT. It's one of the main ingredients in ayahuasca. So you have these experiences based off that, but it's also endogenous. It's also part of the human genetic chemistry, biology, whatever you want to call it, where it lives inside of us. And they're starting to do a lot of studies and come out and see that that you can release it naturally through holotropic breath work, through meditation, through Kundalini yoga. There's all different ways to do it there. But then also they're looking at it like it's a lot of times it's secreted in these near-death experiences where people that die for a few minutes or however long and they come back, they're like, oh, I see these visions. I've seen this. I've seen heaven. I had this spiritual awakening. And they're starting to realize that a lot of times it's because DMT is being released in these moments to help you pass. And so there's a lot of work that's going on now in the world clinically from healing mental disorders, from anxiety, depression, PTSD, drug addiction, all the way up to some people are choosing to do these types of things before they die, like right on their deathbed. They're going through these psychedelic journeys, and it's like helping them transfer into the next realm. And so DMT is extremely powerful. It's one of these things for people that don't know. It'll take you into a psychedelic state within 10 seconds or less. And normally it takes 20 minutes to an hour or more. So there's like a slow build up. There's like a physical feel. There's like, you get the good emotions, the vibes, euphoria. You might see in some visuals. So it's a slow build up to a crescendo where this is just straight shot out of a rocket and you're in the world. And it's like you're in the reality of a psychedelic reality. But man, holy fuck, was it powerful. And I know that each one of us that had this experience had our own experience, but I'll defer mine to yours first. Tell me about your experience and like what it was that drew you to it and leading up to it, maybe some thoughts you had and what was your journey like, as much as you want to not hold the gold, as it were.
Yeah. Thanks, Aubrey Marcus, for that little nugget.
Yeah.
Well, before we get into that, I just want to quickly like tell everybody like, or communicate that it sounds like we did a lot of stuff, and in some sense we did all these different ceremonies over the course of, but I just want to kind of like set the stage that like everything just flowed together. It sounds like we rushed, or it could sound like things were stacked on top of each other, but there were several days where there was nothing that we did, you know, so we're given the highlights, we're given the, you know. So I just wanted to throw that.
Almost 10 days in like an hour and a half to 2 hours. So it's
yeah.
on top of each other.
Yeah. So I just wanted to set that stage that everything just flowed beautifully in this like very because I know a lot of people that travel, they try to fit in a lot of stuff, get the most experience. This wasn't the case at all. Just wanted to throw that out there.
Beautiful voyage, beautiful, like nothing was rushed, nothing was forced, nothing felt like, oh, I got to do this now, or I'm too tired to do this. Everything was literally perfect. And it was like the couple of days we didn't do anything but the beach and enjoy each other's company. And then we started doing these soft, beautiful, light, but super powerful experiences. And then it led into DMT.
Yeah. So the toad ceremony, DMT 5-MeO. Yeah. So I'll give the highlights, you know, I'm going to hold a little bit of the gold.
Yeah.
But definitely I've been preparing for this for a while, and I was called to it last year, and just my intention for any kind of ceremony, especially these kinds of ceremonies, is that it must bring me, or it must call me, and I'm not going out and looking for anything.
Right. Like, you're not trying to go get high, or you're not trying to go see some cool things vision wise. Like you're on a soul's journey that's pulling you to do these things. Yeah,
exactly. And even on another level is that I'm not even going to search out this kind of stuff. I'm not going to try to contact a practitioner in most of these cases. There's certain classes and stuff but these kinds of very sacred journeys for me, I never reach out. I wait for the call. I wait for the message to call me to it. And so last year it had called, and this year it was calling a couple more times, you know, and when I mean called, you know, some people would bring it up. Some people would talk about it. I would see it here or there. And that inner compass that we talked about a little while ago, it's like, yep, soon. And an opportunity is going to present itself.
Yep.
So patience is definitely key for these kinds of things. So how it all unfolded really is how this whole Mexico trip unfolded, because there were several different things that were stacking on top of each other from my perspective. You know, I was going to visit Chichen Itza. I was going to do a special ceremony there. Didn't know when. The toad was calling me. Didn't know when. Definitely wanted to hit up the beach and just quality of lifetime, recharge, all that stuff was calling me. And then basically, you know, our friend Ross, and he was like, hey, I'm going to be in Mexico for something. And, have you guys heard of this? You know, and he's referring to the toad ceremony. And I was like, yeah, and then like all these like things start to like, okay. I think I see what's going on here. And that's where the messages received converted quickly into decisiveness.
Yes.
Like as soon as boom, just decide. And that's what happened. So, we put together this trip, certain things were continuing to unfold, but that's how this ceremony and this trip, happened on my end. And so my intention going in was very simple. It was to harmoniously embody the creator within, to be able to, and there's a journey of being able to realize something mentally, which is part of the journey. But if we live in a mental state, we're living in that masculine, we're living in that logical, we're living in that linear, we're living in that step by step. And what you and I have been talking about this whole conversation basically is the feminine, the flowing, the intuitive, the trusting, the open, the receiving. And so that is more embodiment, because whenever we embody this stuff within our bones, our muscles, our cells, that it becomes us. Absolutely. It becomes part of our beingness. And when it's a part of our beingness, we don't have to think about, am I abundant, or am I going to love somebody today, or am I going to be kind, or am I going to help somebody? Like it doesn't require any thought, because it is who you are. Yep. It is your default. It's your natural state, whatever you want to call it. And so that's been the journey for me, is to embed this harmony. And so this journey for me was really beautiful. The first part of it was very like melting into the experience. Some people have different experiences whenever we're talking about the takeoff. That's absolutely a thing. But for me, it was just very melting into the experience, and just so incredibly beautiful. And the emotional expression and release was definitely a beautiful part of this, because it's like there's very deep parts of ourselves that we either aren't conscious of needing to be expressed, or we're holding ourselves back. And it's like this thing of a certain deep part of you wants to just like surrender completely, that, man, like I'm taken care of, or that I just need to express this one little aspect of myself that wants to be expressed. Yep. And so there's opportunities for me to be able to express these really deeply rooted emotions, that a couple of them I didn't even know that I had, and a couple of them that I knew I had and I needed to get it out, Yep. And so that's what especially this kind of ceremony offers, is this beautiful expression of something that is so deeply wants to be expressed, that is so deep and a part of you, that you're just not giving it the light of day. And that's what part of what this experience offers. So I was able to express some beautiful parts of myself that have wanted to be expressed. So that was really beautiful. And then there were some very powerful realizations, of harmony. So one of my things is harmony, to be able to have that energy of harmony no matter where I go. And when I take action, that there's always this energetic signature of harmony with the things that I create, whether it's, a book, course, podcast, whatever it is that it's this beautiful flowing way of unfolding of the moment.
Yep.
And so for me, part of this experience really, I'll tell this in person, for anybody that's curious, but basically to embody the frequency of harmony itself within me. And it was this really profound and beautiful way of which as Raya helped facilitate for me. Yes. And man, it was just this beautiful way of just embodying that, and it's, so for me, that was really beautiful. And and joy was a big one for me, another one. So it was this when you're in this kind of state or this experience, it just allows you to receive the answer, receive the perspective. And I remember in this very beautiful state, I was just laughing, smiling, and I was just like, "Oh man, that's the secret right there. Like,
Yeah.
that's it right there." The secret of joy.
Yep.
And so at the time, like right after, I couldn't remember the exact what it was, and so that was the unfolding of like, well, so what was it? Okay, let me just set intention in this very feminine way of just like, okay, it'll come to me.
Yep.
I'm receiving. And for me, it was, to fully enjoy the beautiful unfoldment. It sounds very simple, but when you fully embrace that perspective, it becomes this every single moment is unfolding for you in this beautiful way that's very special to you, that just means the world. And that in and of itself brings the joy, you know? And so just that little realization, and then it goes from realizing it here to embodying it here.
Yes.
And so that's been, part of my journey is to embody and to fully, bring that aspect back. Because, I like to explore, things bring me joy. I like to joke around, but there was this little part of me that just couldn't fully embrace joy because I felt like there was something missing, or there was a perspective missing. And so what this experience offered me was, this is the thing you've been looking for. This is the perspective you've been looking for. And I gave it to myself, or during this experience, I was helped in many different ways, not only from the facilitator, but from the universe itself. And to have that support, and to know that, being able to just have a shift in perspective changes your life forever, or as long as you decide to, have that perspective.
Yeah. Fucking powerful, brother. And thank you for sharing, because it's personal. It's a very sacred journey. And I know we're both called in different ways to share these journeys for different reasons. And so I'm very thankful for you. You're my soul brother. You're one of my best friends. And I love doing life with you and going on these shared experiences. And for me, it was, just kind of setting the setting and painting it a little bit. We were at Bufo Alvarius, not too far from Tulum. I don't know the exact town we were in. You can Google it. It's probably the only one, Bufo Alvarius. And as soon as you walk in, you see pictures of like Mike Tyson and Joe Rogan. Like, they've been here. It's changed their lives. And if you hear Mike Tyson speak, he's a walking, talking Buddha. Like, he really is. He's so profound with minimal words. It's gorgeous. And Tony Robbins
about that,
Yeah, so like serious. Just a
so serious, man. So change your life, man.
Change your life. I look at life differently now.
All respect.
No question. One of the most dangerous men on earth, just bare hands.
Yeah.
Still in his 50s. Have you seen it? Oh man, it was incredible. Anyway, so Tony Robbins has been massively affected. So many powerful light bringers in their own way. Some of the people that we look at the most successful in so many ways have been affected so heavily by this experience. And so, going into this journey, I'm just in a state of peace. I had two intentions, which I'll get to in a second. And walking into Bufo Alvarius, again, nature, it's kind of eclectic. There's cool people there. There's TP there. There's this little garden, little pool. It's just like a fun little spot. And, you see the teepee that you're going to go into, and it's like this, probably 20, 25 foot tall frame of a teepee, and it's a white outer shell kind of thing. And, the first experience outside of you guys telling me about yours, when you came back and I was at the beach,
which was very minimal.
Yeah.
Because we didn't want to,
because I never want to ruin a journey for myself or make someone talk about something they don't want to talk about. Like it just was very organic, and I don't want to assimilate things in my journey that like may not be real for me. Right. And so there were things that happened for you in your journey, or the other guys in their journey, that didn't happen for me. And I think that was part of me wanting to go solo, because I really wanted to have this singular experience while we were in a group setting. And so when I go into the TP, as Raya, beautiful human being, is prepared, and he's holding a space and creating safety and giving love, and he's talking about the journey and what to expect, and just really just painting a beautiful picture. And then he says, "What are your intentions?" And I had two very specific intentions that I had, and I asked him. I said, "Is there any intention that's too big?" Right? Because that's still like my limited earthly mind thinking that way. I'm like, "Is there anything that's too big?" He's like, "Not at all." I was like, "All right." So I said, "My first intention is I want to heal the world. My second intention was I want to remove any self-limiting beliefs that I have subconsciously that may stop me from being able to get to that point of getting the message out to the world." And those were my two intentions, and I felt like they went hand in hand. There was a polarity there. If I want to be able to spread the message everywhere, I have to be able to like not get in my own way. And then he goes through the process. He's like, "This is what you got to do." And so what I've heard up until this point, specifically on Joe Rogan with guests like Michael Pollan, and I think we watched this before at my house, where he, like this scientific kind of guy that started getting the plant medicines, was like, "I only took 2 puffs and I had like the worst trip of my life and it was awful." And Rogan's like, "You got to do 3. You got to do 3 puffs. You got to do whatever you can." I'm so glad we didn't do 3 puffs, because it probably would have messed with me too. It was just 1. And it was, the way it worked was you breathe all the way out till there's nothing left, all the way out, all the way out. And then you breathe in slowly for 10 seconds as you're taking in the medicine, which is through a pipe, and it's just this little smoke. And as I'm going, breathing in, as Raya's coaching me, he's like, "Slow down, breathe deeper." Like he's walking me through the perfect like way in his mind to get into this. And by second 6 or 7, I'm already like in that deep psychedelic state where like things are moving, colors are happening. I'm starting to go, like, I talk about like going within, like you're kind of being pulled into like a different world essentially. And like normal 3D has changed at this point within 6 or 7 seconds. And then this is for you. And when I say shot out of a rocket, I mean just going from reality to an altered state of reality very quickly is what I mean. But I actually did the thing where I laid back slowly. Like I laid back onto that, like whatever it was on the ground, that rug that was beautiful. It was great. It was like a black and white, some sort of
bear skin or some kind of animals.
And I laid down on it. And as I'm laying back, well, actually, before I laid back, he had me breathe longer. He's like, "You got more, you can keep going." Like he wanted me to go deep, I guess. And so like I got to the 10 seconds and he's like, "All right, breathe it. And he's like, hold it. He's like, hold it. And I just listened to him. He's like, "Okay, let go." And then as soon as I let go, I laid back and I went down on the rug, and life changed. like everything just changed for me, man. And really the whole journey was so profound. And I'll hold the gold as well. But the main message, there's 2 things I'll share, because there was a great insights. But the one thing was, love is the answer. Love is the answer to everything. And it's how you heal the world is you have conversations like this one-on-one, where you're pouring in love, you're emoting love, you're being that beacon of love and light and truth everywhere you go. And I'll talk about a funny story about how that played out for me the very next day in Cancun. But when I was receiving the message, it's like what we talked about before, like in how I got a message by listening to a Tool song before jumping rope. I get very meditative when I jump rope. It's just very like repetitive, and I can kind of lose the analytical mind and just float away. And it was receive the message, be the message, deliver the message, which is embodiment, right? And it's the message for me and my narrative is love. It's loving. Love will heal my wounds. Love will heal other people's wounds, and like displaying and giving love to the world. And I laughed because you said, the secret. For me, my secret was, it's a beautiful dance. Like life is a beautiful dance, and it's just about the journey. And it's about sharing love, light, and truth and wisdom along the way, and receiving it as well. And so at the end of it, I sat there and I was like, all right, so my mortal vessel eventually will not be here. And it's just about every interaction along the way, put love into it, put love into conversations, put love into people, put love into whatever it is that you're doing, and be that embodiment of love. And kind of jumping fast forward to Cancun before we touch on Chichen Itza, with this message that I received, it's the message I've been getting. Like this is something I've felt and received before. So it's becoming
confirmation.
Clearer. Yeah. Confirmation, clearer. It's like love is the answer, and everything that you do, no matter what you do, if you come from a place of love, all else is going to work out. And so when I got to Cancun, which was the very next day, I'm sitting on the beach and I'm walking between the beach to the hotel, and the hotel to the beach, and I'm just in a pure state of bliss, like just pure ecstatic. And like I wasn't really, I guess I was aware of it. Like I knew I was feeling happy and great, but the looks on people's faces that were mirroring what I was giving off was friggin' hilarious. So like I'd be walking by the pool and I just look at someone with this big shit-eating grin on my face and they just display it right back. And I remember there was one lady coming down the stairs towards the beach and I look at her and I guess I'm just in this pure like bliss state. And she just stops dead in her tracks from her walk and she's looking at me and smiling at me. And it was just like, this is partly how you do it. Like just sharing a smile, just sharing a genuine, authentic, blissful smile with someone can literally brighten each other's day. Right. And so instead of changing the world on the macro, which with however we do that through retreats and podcasts and businesses and books and whatever, the micro, hey, how you doing? Asking a question or giving a smile, like that changes the world on a micro level as well. So I think that was part of the integration. And I've been seeing that play out day after day. But yeah, it was a beautiful journey, man. And I also got the message for me personally that I won't use plant medicine as a tool, for many years to come. I think I'm getting to a point where like each journey is bringing me to a place of like just, being in wholeness and centeredness. And so I love the journey. I love the ride, but I could see how it's going to be navigating and unfolding. But this whole journey for me was just like an hour and a half to 2 hours before I left for Chichen Itza. So to go from Tulum to 2 hours away to Chichen Itza, where we had a whole nother set of a journey ahead of us, which was more traditional, more exploring. And talk about Chichen Itza and why I called you a little bit, what we did there.
Yeah, so Chichen Itza, ancient site in the Mayan history, and it's called me for a little while. As many ancient sites do, but it's allowing the right timing for it to come and allowing it to organically unfold in front of us. So Chichen Itza called me, and we all went there, and we. I'll speak of the first part more exclusively, and then the second part kind of a little less. But just we had a beautiful, awesome, tapped in tour guide, Jaime. He's this beautiful character, and
everybody knows Jaime.
Yeah, and he was just such a beautiful soul to guide us, through these ancient ruins. And of course, we went through the tour. He was telling us about the history and the culture and what all these different aspects of the temples meant. Yes. And it was just a really beautiful way to tap into the different, types of living, because especially in the Western world, we can get logical. We can get separated from Mother Earth and these kind of cosmic timelines of looking at the stars and just the profoundness that all these massive structures were so meticulously created to showcase almost a sacrament of how we fit into something much bigger. These different cycles of the stars, the different cycles of the lunar, and to be able to almost find our place in a sense, and to know where we stand, so to speak, and being able to just see it from that perspective. So it was a beautiful, powerful experience, and we were able to actually do a despacho, which I don't know if we talked about this in the last.
Let's talk about it as deep as you want, because that was just as powerful as anything else, if not more.
Yeah. So that was, so just being there in this sacred space, and we took off our shoes and we just kind of like grounding ourselves into the land,
yes,
introducing ourselves and just inviting the native energy of the Mayan and the people and the temples and stuff, just to harmonize with who we are. And that was very intentional. And what we did later was we conducted a despacho ceremony, which is from the Andean culture down in the Peru country, right? And basically what a despacho is it is a physical prayer, as a physical sacrament to Mother Earth. And what we do is we bring our intentions and prayers into this beautiful ceremony, and the person that's conducting the ceremony basically is taking these different like physical things, seeds, sweets, little things that represent certain things, like, represents a house, represents a card, represents like different aspects of ourselves, cotton, um, all these different things that we can imbue our intentions and prayers into in a very energetic way. And what that does is that as we say this prayer, or we set this intention for, let's say, a handful of corn, seeds or corn, right? That this represents, the seeds of abundance, as an example. And what this ceremony offers is that we just tap into the moment. What does the moment call for? What am I feeling? What are the people around me? What are their intentions? What is the energy? And so it's a really beautiful, powerful ceremony that is created in almost like it's a physical mosaic, because we add, in the Indian culture, we have coca leaves, which they call it a kintu, which is 3 coca leaves. And basically you blow in your intentions, and once you blow in your intentions, you put it into the despacho. And because we didn't have access to coca leaves, we grab leaves from the land.
Yep.
And so it's a beautiful way to bring the Andean culture into different parts of the world. And I was lucky enough in Peru to be blessed by 2 different Pacos to be blessed to do these types of ceremonies. And we did one while we at our Vortexes of Light retreat in Georgia several months ago, which was whole nother beautiful experience. And so once we put it all together, we wrap it up as a literal gift, and then we offer it up to Pachamama, and we did several different things. But the next day we went to this other ancient site that hasn't been excavated yet, and and I think Jaime was saying that it's probably not going to be open to the public for another 10 years, because they have to do a lot of renovations and putting blocks where they're supposed to be and all this kind of stuff. But we were able to finish the ceremony, and basically we burn the despacho in a sacred way, and then we after it was burned, then we covered it up with earth again. So
made the earth right, so to speak. Like we took from the earth for a second to be able to do our thing, but then we made it back the way it should be. It also hopefully added to it with an intention and love.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different bigger picture intentions that were part of it.
Yep.
That basically bringing in the respect of the Mayan people, the truth that the Mayans stand for, and the temples in which had their own energetic forces embedded in it, and adding those energies, those intentions, to bring our own consciousness to further the truth that they were sharing, and of course adding harmony into it, to what is the truth that the Mayan people were trying to say, what kind of truth that is still relevant today that can continue to be shared, and adding that aspect of it as well. So it's not just about people coming in and offering up intentions, but we added this beautiful element of the lands, the temples, the people, the traditions, the heritage, and adding those elements to it. And it was a really beautiful ceremony, very powerful. And looking forward to, all of these different ceremonies were just kind of an exponential adding to potency of these different, how we're going to move forward in life.
It's incredible, man. It's been beautiful to see, the kind of 2 weeks now that it's been since we've been back, give or take a few days, right? And it's been unbelievable, man. It was like coming back. I know we shared this story between ourselves, and there was some flight stuff coming back from Mexico that was really not ideal for anyone, but where my head was at, I didn't even really care. So it was like getting on a plane that was supposed to leave at, 6 p.m. We get on the plane a little closer to 7, so about an hour later, no big deal. And then when we get on the plane, we're on the runway for 2 hours because the plane just wasn't going anywhere for 2 hours. So for 3 hours, got delayed. I gave zero fucks. Like I could care less. Like I'm just in this beautiful state of being and presence. It wasn't frustrated, wasn't agitated, wasn't getting nervous, just alive. Because what could I do, right? Like what can you do? You learn to be in a beautiful state and enjoy it, or you fight against it and you put yourself in a state of anxiety. And so then we leave, we fly to Georgia. We get to Georgia, and as soon as we hit the runway, we pull up to our gate, and for some reason or another, the door from the airplane wasn't opening with the door to the gate. And so they're trying to figure that out for a while. And so there's another delay, 30, 40 minutes. But then as they figure out, they're just going to go move to another gate. For some reason, the gate itself and the door to the plane wouldn't uncouple. And so now we're stuck for a little while longer because we couldn't move. And so another hour, hour and a half. And this is where people are losing their shit. It's like, and again, I'm still just sitting there chilling, whatever. No big deal. I hear a guy behind me a few rows calling the sheriff's department, demanding they send someone because they're holding us against our will and we can't get off the plane. He's like, I don't care who you got to send them, like being very, I don't even know, but just, let's just say impatient is a kind way to say it. And then there was other people losing their shit. And like, it was just, thank God, because like, I just had this beautiful journey and like nothing could ruin it. Like, not like I was just in this beautiful state and there was no, and I didn't get home until like 3 a.m. I had to get up somewhat early the next day, and it was like, whatever. And it's carried over to the next couple of weeks to where, I really wanted to be intentional about like kind of doing my own journeys and doing my own experiences. And so this ecstatic dance popped up to last night, August 15th. It's called, I believe it's Soul, S-O-L, Soul Dance here in Atlanta, Soul Ecstatic Dance. It's led by a guy named Scott Houston. He's been doing it for some amount of years. He put together this beautiful space and container at Candler Park, which is this open park. And there was probably 50 people there. And he's playing like trance music, harder beat stuff, flowy stuff, light stuff. And dude, like, because of my experience with ecstatic dance before, I kind of knew how to immerse myself in it, because ecstatic dance, for those who are listening, and dance in general, is something that cultures around the world have used for millennia. The same thing as sound. And in the West, again, it's been stamped out or dampened down, and it's only used as performance. You have to go to a play to see someone, or you have to go somewhere but in cultures, people just dance around the fire or dinner every night. Like, that's just what they did. And it's healing, and it's community, it's relationships. It's actually part of where the blue zones are in the world, from Sardinia to Okinawa to Costa Rica. There's all these places in the world where they have the most centurions, people that live to 100 years or more, but they do it vibrantly. And what they're finding is it's not just location or genetics, but it's also community and the things that people are doing, from dance to arts to play to sports to love to all these different things, nutrition. But dance is so powerful, and I'm completely called to it. And so I went to this ecstatic dance event last night, man. And this was after another thing that we did in the morning, which I want to hear about your experience, if you want to dive into it in a second, was the meditation that we were doing. So meditation in the morning, and then ecstatic dance in the evening. So like a nice polarity from like kind of going within, mental, emotional, spiritual, to like embodying the physical body later in the day, still going within, but using the mortal coil to like move and shake and create energy. And dude, it was fucking amazing. It was 2 hours. It was like our ecstatic dance that we did. It was just this beautiful moment where there's a bunch of people dancing by themselves in a group of people dancing by themselves. And then people get playful and people start to feed off of each other, different energies. And, you know, there's like very tribal drum beats. You start kind of like getting low to the ground and doing some like different kind of like shit that just came out of you that you didn't even know existed. And for 2 hours in the Georgia heat of like 90 degrees in the sun, and then there was shade too, which was great. People are just sweating their asses off, dancing, getting weird, getting wild, getting playful, being very inviting in a very safe container. It was really cool because Scott led this beautiful journey as the DJ and the guy that was playing the music. And he was like, guys, like at certain points, he would like kind of curate different experiences. And at one point he's like, this is an ecstatic dance, get excited. And everybody just went nuts. And the music tempo kicked up and like everybody started going harder. And it was just, and then he would bring us back down and get slow. And he's like, okay, like tap into your heart, tap into your soul. Like what's coming up for you. Like he led this beautiful journey, man. So I just want to say that because it was just an extension. It's just the whole journey is an extension from everything that we've been doing. And it's like every time we do another one of these experiences, number one, it fills up the soul, makes you feel good, but it brings you to like another state of consciousness or awareness or love that maybe you're able to show up for yourself or someone else better.
100%. Yeah, the journey continues, and to enjoy the unfoldment of it, is part of the beauty that we can have. And Yeah, I wanted to share a little bit about on the way back from Mexico as well,
Yeah.
because we both had our own unique experiences, but they were very similar.
Yeah.
And I think it's a testament to the state that we have arrived to in just a normal waking state, you know. So, you know, Ali and I, we actually flew into Cancun to get into Mexico, and then we flew out of Merida, which is just a little different area in the Yucatan Peninsula. And I'm trying to remember exactly what time we were supposed to take off, but in any case, we found out that we got delayed, you know, and we had, you know, went to the lounge area. We were just hanging out there for a couple hours, and we got word that it was delayed again. And we're like, hey, how long is this, you know, lounge open? They said, oh, till 8. We're like, okay. So 8 comes by, we go to the gate area, and this happens 4 or 5 times over the course of several hours, about 6 or 7 hours. And there was nothing, like you said, that could stop our joy or stop our, you know, just living in the moment. We saw so many people freaking out, getting frustrated, you know, and of course, this is all natural.
Yeah.
But being able to just observe everybody else's kind of, you know, how they're responding to this uncontrollable situation was very telling of what we experienced in Mexico. And it's almost like a foreshadowing of what life looks like moving forward, you know, to be able to, no matter what happens, even if it's out of my direct control, it's not going to rob me of my joy. It's not going to rob me of my happiness, of fulfillment, of just enjoying the moment with the people that I care about. And so this happened, you know, I think we ended up taking off around 2:30 a.m. or something like that. And we ended up, you know, finally making it to the US, and something really beautiful happened while we were in the air. I was listening to this kind of like this meditation music, and it just felt all these like very beautiful, like different energies in my body. And just really, you know, what it told me was like, you know, congratulations for arriving at this little milestone.
Yep.
And it was such an appreciative moment, right? And so when we got to Houston, so we flew from Houston, and then we went to Denver, but we were in Houston for a little while. And oh no, it was oh, I'm getting stuff mixed up. Sorry. That happened in Houston. So anyways, there was some several other instances of just these small moments of like, you know, when we picked up the luggage, you know, at customs in Houston, like literally I was like, you know, we're walking up to the carousel, like, oh, our bag's going to show up right, you know, as soon as we come up. And sure enough, like boom, as soon as it came up, you know, as soon as we walked within like 8 feet, our bag came down, and I just literally nonstop, like didn't pause for one moment to like wait for the bag. It was literally like a seamless transition. And then whenever we went to talk to the customs guy, you know, it was a guy that had spent time in Panama, and my wife is half Panamanian. She was born there. She grew up in Colorado, and we spent some time in Panama, had some great times. And so we just like connected on with this guy about Panama, and he actually didn't ask us any questions. And we were just laughing for like this good, like 60 seconds. Like we were just like, it wasn't a customs like checkpoint. It was like this joyful,
Yeah.
like people just laughing to laugh, you know. And we, you know, he's like, yeah, I've had some really great times in Panama. I'm like, yeah, I bet you have, you know. And then we just like laughing and laughing, yeah. You know. So, but it's like this, when we get into that state of, you know, like what we've been talking about, all of Mexico, what it represented, you know, this, you know, balancing of the different energies to embrace our feminine and masculine, and going with the flow, and being certain within ourselves, and understanding that this is just an enjoyable unfoldment of the journey, you know. And it's just you know, the more that we embrace these simple perspectives, these simple intentions, and embody them, then it's just like, man, can life get any better? And of course it can.
Yeah.
But it's just a nice, beautiful, enjoyable ride. So so I wanted to add that little piece, because I felt like it was like the icing on top of the cake, that is like, man, like everything that we embodied, everything that we learned, everything we let go of in Mexico, like it was that experiential, like like tip of the hat from the universe. Like, hey,
Yep.
because if it was like a seamless flight, we wouldn't have been able to really see how nothing could take away our joy.
Yep.
So yesterday morning we did a activation ceremony. It was pre-recorded, but for anybody in the space that knows that time is moldable. We can do things that were recorded, or there's a timeless energeticness with these types of ceremonies, and so it's like being able to join them in this like etheric space, and to be part of this collective energy. And so we did this really beautiful ceremony that was several hours. There was some manifestation stuff. There was some abundance stuff. There was some DNA activation. And you and I have been talking about that for a while. And so, overall, it was a beautiful experience. Definitely, tapped into it. Did the ceremony like I meant it, and just really embraced the unfoldment, because it's like these opportunities come to us.
Yeah.
And again, that inner compass that says, yes, do this. You may not know why. You may not know the reason why you're doing it. And the initial reason why that you said you were going to do it may not be the actual reason why you actually needed to do it. So it's like when we mentally and logically think like, oh, why do I need to do this? It's like, your higher self universe is like, hey, bro, just go do it. Don't stop thinking about it, and do the thing like you mean it, So it was a really beautiful ceremony. And just a continuing of the unfoldment, of this integration and this embodiment that is still continuing to go on. And I have a friend that did two different 5-MeO ceremonies, and he's like, there's a big integration embodiment phase, right after, but the thing, these insights continue for months and months. And if you just, have the intention to enjoy the ride, it's not about, mentally knowing like, well, how long is this integration going to take? You're like, when am I going to do this? When am I going to arrive to that one place that's arbitrary? Right. It's just about like, man, I'm just enjoying the moment. Of course, you're grateful of all the milestones that you pass,
yes,
the challenges that you overcome, the moments of like, wow, several hours of delay and it didn't mess with my joy. Like, how beautiful is that? Like, that's celebration right there.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, it was, just continuing with the path. And, right now there's, I'm feeling some different energies that are just a little heavier, but it's this opportunity for me, and my perspective as I look at it as a gift.
Yep.
Of, this heaviness, or this semi-heaviness, or this like, oh man, I'm just not feeling like, ultra inspired, those, embrace those moments too, because those are experiences to help yourself liberate, to once you set the intention that, if I express this heaviness, whatever it is, if I need understanding, the understanding will come to me. I don't need to logically figure it out. But it allows me to move forward and just permanently let go of that energy, heaviness, limiting belief, whatever it is. And it allows us to just move forward in life more boldly, more powerfully, more humbly, shining brighter, and finding other people that are on the path to do good stuff in the world, to enjoy, to laugh, to create, and ultimately just to make the world a better place by us being who we are.
Yep. No question. It's it's funny you say that. We'll touch on this in another conversation, but I've been kind of feeling some heavier energy the last 3 or 4 days as well too. And I'll get into specifics about that on another time with you and I, but one thing that I wanted to bring up that we forgot about, because we were kind of doing like a beginning to end timeline, was the cenote, and that was like one of the last experiences we had. And for me, I'm very much, the water is like one of my spirit elements for sure. Just growing up on the ocean, being in the Navy, being attracted to the beach, being attracted to the ocean. Like this is, I live right next to a lake and go to the lake a lot. The cenote was like a must do, and it's these beautiful naturally occurring pools that happen all over. There's thousands of them in Mexico, and some of them are so gorgeous. Like the one we went into was probably 70, 80 feet from the water to the where the forest, I guess, was, and there was roots coming down, and they were drinking from the water, and it was just this beautiful immersive experience. And it was really great because we had done these ceremonies and had done a lot with spirit and mental, emotional, and all this different stuff, and kind of sometimes like would go from one reality to the next. But this was very grounding, and it was water that was in the ground, and water again is very powerful. And it was just the three of us, Allie, you and I, and it was just fun. It was just a fun part of the journey. And but it was also very serene and calming. And there was moments, for a big part of it, we kind of all went our own separate ways. And I floated over and started looking out at nature, and like, there's birds, and there's different kinds of like foliage, and just admiring some of the stalactites and all the different things that were there, and the fish that were in the water, and the little dragonflies. And there was just a whole ecosystem. And for me, man, I was just in heaven. I think I yelled at you, I told you, I was like, I could stay in here forever. It was beautiful. And I think just getting back to all the conversations that we had, like even just being in nature, regardless of what your form of nature is that you love, mountains, oceans, anything in between, right? From seashore to mountain heights and everything in between, the jungles and deserts and canyons. And there's very much power in those places as well too. So I'm just very thankful for the whole journey, thankful for everybody that was there, and the relationships that we continue to build on, and the new relationships we formed. And there was people I met while we were there in the city, and like there was just all this cool different stuff that happened, and it was a hell of a ride, brother. And I love our journey. I love giving hugs around the world, man, and eating cosmic sandwiches, brother.
Boom. Yeah. 100%, man. Yeah. And I think it's a beautiful thing to be able to have this almost seamless dance to do exactly what your soul needs to do separately, but together.
Yes.
So like I think it was a beautiful testament. There was, throughout the whole trip with all of us, there were some moments where, you would go and do your own thing, or Allie would go and I would do my thing, whatever the case may be. And we were all just like, oh yeah, they just doing something to fill their soul, and letting go of like the judgment of like, we got to do everything together. We got to lock arms. We got to play Red Rover, like, because sometimes, like when we're in a joint journey, sometimes we think that like we have to do everything together, like exactly, or, in that kind of energy. But it's like, sometimes you need to break off and do your own thing for a second, and trusting yourself and allowing other people to trust themselves and removing the judgment, I think is a really beautiful way to move forward, and just say, man, like whatever we do and whatever we do together is just perfect. And because we set that, because that's how we feel, like, that's just how it is, that's just what happens, and it's almost like magic, but it's also, a very grounded practice of living, and definitely enjoy this ride with you, brother. And we've had many adventures already, and I know we're just getting started. There's many more to come, and we're going to do a lot of good stuff in the world, and just excited to bring out that unfolding journey and be us and see where that takes us.
We've only just begun.
Cenote.
Cenote.
Cenote.